Hey guys, this is the Mall Fox here, and I was lucky enough to get special permission to film the Richlands Mall, located in Richlands, Virginia. So, history on this mall starts with the building it was constructed out of. This mall was formerly a 120,000 square foot textile factory operated by the Eastern Isles Manufacturing Company. Here's an image I found of what that used to look like. The textile factory was opened in 1962, and the factory manufactured ladies' clothing. The textile mill was planning an expansion in 1966 and would run until early February 1979, when the newspapers stated it had officially closed. The property would not be vacant for long, as plans in that same year were already being formulated to convert the old factory into a shopping mall. Due to the coal industry being promising at the time, Atlanta-based developer Taz Anderson Jr., who ran GG Industries, was planning what became the Richlands Mall, in addition to other developments in the same geographic region. Leasing for the property started in the middle of 1979, with construction stated to be underway by February 1980 on the new mall. The building, in the end, would be increased from 120,000 square feet to a total size of around 163,000 square feet. And the mall would end up having three owners when it opened: Taz Anderson Jr., Fletcher Bright, who actually ended up becoming the owner until very recently of the mall. He owned it for all these years, and another man by the name of D. Kim Kind. Now, I really appreciate JT from Sky City allowing me to use these two photographs. He visited the mall in the early 2010s, back when roses still had an unobstructed view into the mall. And as far as I'm aware, these two pictures are the only times the internet has ever been able to see into this mall prior to this video. What's unfortunate is the colorful banners on the ceiling were removed very recently, according to the guy that let me in here. And that was a very vintage element of this mall. And as you're seeing down there on the left, that storefront with the glass that comes out, that's been drywalled over. But I'm very glad to have the opportunity to show this otherwise completely undocumented mall. The link to his blog post is going to be linked in the description. For anyone that wants to go read it, I recommend taking a look. That guy and the people that worked with him were monumental for this scene. Roses had their grand opening on August 13th, 1980, with the rest of the interior mall opening in early December. At the mall's grand opening celebration, Chuck Robb, the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, cut the ribbon on the new enclosed shopping mall. The other anchor, Kroger, opened in either very late November or early December, as shown by a grand opening ad in the paper ran in December. I want to say that there's a lot of conflicting information about the openings of this mall, when it finished construction, what tenants opened when, and whatnot. And what I have said is what I believe to be true after hours of research to be the most accurate, but if something is off, I apologize. The mall was fully operational though by 1981. Now, this next part of the video is what I'm going to leave in the unlisted video link in my description, if you guys want to see that part unedited and raw. But this is when I go into every single room, every corridor, every back room space that I can go into. And so again, if you guys want to see that unedited and raw, it will be linked in the description. Otherwise, on to the history again. According to the Richlands Press, in February 1981, 16 out of the 24 spaces of the mall were occupied. Those stores were Eckerd Drug, Baskin-Robbins, Old Town Jewelers, Colony Hallmark, Roses, Shoe World, Kroger, Athletic Attic, Black Gold, which I believe was the arcade that we just saw, Richlands Twin Cinemas, Ralph's Shoes, The Clover Patch, Adam and Eve, Claretta's Uniform and Maternity Shop, Hands-On Jean Shop, and Western Steer Buffet. There was also an 18,000 square foot warehouse portion attached to the backside of the Roses. So what David, the guy that I was with this day, said was that they had demolished the interior theater a couple years back because the roof was having some issues. And so they constructed like a metal wall on the other side of that facade, and they just left the concrete slab, which we're about to see momentarily. That's where people would watch movies, right there. The screen would be facing towards the woods, and you would be sat right there, and this was a twin cinema. Definitely a lot smaller than the cinemas you see nowadays, that's for sure. Now if you look to the right, that blue patch of paint, that's where the drugstore used to enter the mall. And I don't know when exactly they sealed off the mall entrance. I don't know if that happened with CVS or one of the other drugstores, but I really find it interesting that there's that like very old looking wood grain paneling that goes all the way down. You know that was probably bare wood at one point and looked extremely cool. Here's a relic of the past for a lot of people. This started life as a Western Steer Buffet, and over the years, I believe it was a couple different things. I believe it was a place called the Fig Tree at one point, but then it later became a Western Sizzlin', but it was last an Old Country Buffet. I'm gonna mention that this was shot on a brand new phone to me, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and I don't know if it's because I was recording in HDR or what happened, but some of the footage in the darker environments came out blurry. I apologize for this, and I've messed with some settings, and if I'm ever in this environment again, I will make sure that the footage does not come out blurry. So this would have been the dining room of the various buffet spaces that inhabited this mall over the years, and I have something really cool to show. So you see those chandeliers? Take a look at this. Those are the same chandeliers in this picture from 1993. I think it's kind of interesting to see a space that's been unaltered for so long that black and white photo most assuredly had pink wallpaper and blue molding on the wall. Like, that's what that picture looked like back in 1993. It's kind of shocking to me that some of the kitchen equipment is still sat back here. I think that's really interesting, and no, I didn't look in any of the freezers, and I'm very happy with that decision. As far as I can tell, the mall fared decently well through the 1980s into the 1990s, serving as a hub for the community, being the spot where car shows, blood drives, look-alike contests, and more were held. However, it is worth mentioning that at some point this mall had to have fallen behind, given the opening of the Claypool Hill Mall just a few miles down the road. Claypool Hill Mall was larger, with a more modern layout and a stronger roster of anchor tenants, and I have a video on that mall that I will put in the cards above and in the description of this video. That video also briefly mentions the unknown Tazewell Mall, a third mall in this region located in Tazewell, Virginia. But these three storefronts that we just briefly panned over, those are pretty much direct remnants of the 1990s. Joy's Fashion and Record Exchange were two of the last advertisements in the archived newspapers for this mall. And as I talked about earlier, thanks to the Sky City photos, we could see that they did indeed remove that glass piece on that black outlined storefront, which is pretty sad. The real estate guy was telling me that they blew out the spaces in 2 of the 3 storefronts that we just panned over, and they're currently being used by a medical facility for either offices or a clinic space or something like that. They come in via the back doors to those spaces. Those 2 spaces to the left of Rose's. Today, the one on the left is a vape shop with exterior access only, and the one closest to Rose's, that's a Subway, again, with exterior access only. And in terms of the Subway, it's been here for a long time. I'll mention that later in the video. In 1986, tenants occupying the Richlands Mall included Joy's Fashions, which we are inside of right now, Shoe World, Sound Factory, and Elite Hair Designs, among others. I'm gonna pop the full tenant roster up on the screen right now. Despite the opening of the Claypool Hill Mall, this mall would stay open into the 1990s. However, by the late 1990s, the writing was on the wall. This mall would not be around forever. Around January 1991, a restaurant named The Fig Tree opened in what I believe was most likely the buffet space. The restaurant was named by the multiple owners who all owned other spaces in the mall because of the twisted fig trees that were throughout the inside of the Richlands Mall. The restaurant served mainly steak, shrimp, and Mexican cuisine, and I don't believe it lasted very long, as Western Sizzlin' opened in 1992, which was confirmed to be in the old Western Steer space, and there is no more mention of the fig tree after 1991. Something that I'm going to try not to lose sleep over is the fact that the mall office door was unable to be opened. There's no doorknob on it, but it would not open. And I have no idea what kind of documents or old pictures and photo albums were inside there, if any at all. The guy had told me that the other week that door was open, but it was not open this time. I am not going to lose sleep over that. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to lose sleep. I really just can't get over all the vintage wallpaper in all of these rooms. You know this stuff probably has not changed in at least 30, 40 years. And the red carpet all over the ground. Also, in this room lies the banners that used to be on the ceiling of the main concourse of the mall. David, the guy that, let me in here, had told me that they had just recently, or a couple weeks or maybe a couple months ago, took those off of the ceiling. Now, when I came here in March of last year, 2024, to film the Claypool Hill Mall, I came here because I knew about it, and I was able to get my phone camera to get a decent enough picture of the concourse through the perforation in the roses shelf that they placed in front of the glass entrance. Here's what that picture looks like. Some tenants stated to be a part of the Mall Merchant Association in July 1993 included McDonald's, which was an out parcel, Super RX Drug, Shoe World, Richlands Mall Jewelers, Joy's Fashion, and Vision Unlimited. The mall would gain a new tenant shortly after this, as Subway opened on December 3rd, 1993, with exterior access, and they remain there to this day. The viability of the mall was tested when it was announced that Roses would be closing 40 of its 215 stores in January of 1994. Luckily for the mall, its Roses was spared from the closure, and the Roses store is still on the mall property today in 2025. Now, I'm going to detail the history on the drugstore space, since I thought that trying to break it all up into chronological order was way too confusing. In 1987, the Eckerd Drug at the mall became Super RX Drug. Then, in July of 1994, Super RX Drug became Revco, alongside the rest of the chain after it got bought out. Finally, in 1998, Revco became CVS Pharmacy, which remains today in 2025. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, sometime in between there, the former mall entrance was walled up. And I do actually have a picture of what that looks like inside the CVS, which I will show right now. So this is what used to be the Coal Mine Arcade, and I really love all the colorful tile on the floor and all the carpet and stuff. And you can really imagine what this place would have been like, all lit up and with arcade cabinets. A lot of kids probably spent their quarters here over the years. And as we continue to explore this little room, they have a back room that is covered wall to floor in brown carpet, brown shag carpet. I don't know what that would have been, but there is a room right here that is covered in carpet. Some of the final tenants in the newspapers that I saw occupying this mall in 1999 included Old Country Buffet, Joy's Fashion, and Record Exchange. Obviously, two of these were among the two remaining vintage storefronts down there at the other end of the mall with the signage still up. You know, of course, that's 25 years later now. And I don't know when exactly this mall closed. There's not a solid closing date in 1999 in the Clinch Valley newspaper, and the Clinch Valley newspaper stops being properly archived after 1999. And so any and all mention of the Richlands Mall drops off like a fly. I don't know when exactly this mall closed. What I can say is that the two-screen movie theater here closed on November 12th, 1999, citing that it was no longer financially feasible for them to keep the theater space open. So this mall was winding down by the late 1990s. It very likely closed in the very, very early 2000s, or it could have closed in 1999. To go alongside with the decline of this mall post-1990s into the 2000s, Kroger closed at the mall on March 25th, 2000. It was later replaced by Grant's IGA, which is another grocery store, and they currently still occupy space at the mall. But that's basically all the information I have on the Richlands Mall. The future of this building will be a strip mall. And, I mean, as sad as it's going to be for a vintage mall like this to get destroyed, it definitely can't sit around like this forever. It's a miracle that it has even sat around like this for 25 years. I mean, that's unheard of. And it's not like abandoned. Yeah, there's decay in this building, but it's not like abandoned, you know? People haven't gotten in and destroyed the place. It's just perfectly preserved almost, which is incredible. But this building definitely needs to have a new life where it's able to continue to serve the people of this community like it once did as a mall. And that's what the people at Coldwell Banker and David Burks want to do. They want to subdivide the space and get new tenants in, especially a tenant that has access to the front door as their main entrance, and they'll subdivide the space for them and whatnot, depending on how big they want it. But for the rest of the video, I'm just going to leave the sound unedited, and you guys can just enjoy the rest of the video. For all you ceiling fan people, this one's for you.
Alright, so they demolished the theater because the guy said that the roof got bad, right? But you can still see the ramps on the inside. And also, that would have been the ticket booth. So this would have been a 2-screen cinema. The ticket booth is right there. And apparently he was telling me, and these doors won't unlock. The maintenance guy couldn't join us today. But this goes all the way down that way. This wall is false somehow. I don't know how. He was telling me that that's a false wall. See the very vintage bulbs? So sick. Alright, well. Got a Grant shopping cart next to a I don't know shopping cart. Fucking wallpaper, dude. Nice.
But that's going to conclude my video on the Richlands Mall, located in Richlands, Virginia. Thank you again to David Burks and Coldwell Banker, and the owner of this mall, for letting me film and document its rich history. I'm very glad I was able to preserve it, hopefully for anyone else who's interested in this kind of thing in the future, because this place's time as a mall is running out. But that's a good thing, because it needs to keep serving the people of Richlands, Virginia, and it will continue to do so one day with new stores inside what is now the interior concourse of a closed-up mall. But if you guys liked this video and want to see more like it, consider subscribing to this YouTube channel and ringing the bell, that way you never miss an upload. Consider hitting the like button if you liked this video and what I did to document the mall and want to see more like it. I'm hoping I get to do this for a couple more places I have in mind in the future. Leave a comment down below if this was a mall that you spent time at as a kid, or you have a story worth sharing. I would love to hear all the stories. Or if you just like to leave me a nice comment to read. And otherwise, stay tuned for the next mall video. Oh, and by the way, there's only going to be a couple of photos at the end of this video if you guys would like to see the full set. In the description of this video, there will be a Flickr link where you can see every picture I took inside this old mall.